Hello and welcome to the Super Casuals. My name is Auronado, and today we return to my series comparing the fundamentals of World of Warcraft then and now. Part 3, Talents. Oh, talent trees, how I miss you. Many of us will know all about this one already, but I will give you the short version of what happened to talent trees before I go into greater detail on then versus now. Blizzard said that they didn't like talent trees because at maximum level, the vast majority of players chose the best selection of talents or cookie-cutter builds and never changed them again. So they scrapped the old talent trees completely and came up with a new system that lets you choose one of 3 abilities, and these choices are given to you at roughly every 15 levels. They refused to listen to any criticism of this decision. They ignored all feedback on this decision. They were utterly convinced they were right, and have stuck to the new system over multiple expansions. I am utterly convinced that I can describe that decision in one word.
Wrong!
The way talent trees used to work changed from one expansion to the next. I will first give a brief overview of how things were during each of the expansions. Then I will discuss the impact of the talent system on leveling. In the original version of the game, at level 10, you got 1 point to spend on a talent tree, and each class had its own unique talent tree. Every level after level 10, you received an additional point to spend, totaling 51. Each class had 3 specializations in which you could spend those points. Spending at least 5 points in a tree unlocked the next column down, which allowed you to advance deeper towards the best stuff. Some talents were locked behind other talents directly. The rest you could choose as long as the column was open. At 30 points into a tree, you unlocked access to the final talent in the tree, which made level 40 a really big deal. After level 40, the remaining 20 points could be spent anywhere you like, usually to pick up abilities placed in the early columns of other specializations. And that is of course assuming you even decided to go all the way down a tree for the final point. You may not have done that. It was your decision how you wanted to build the character. But I digress. The talents themselves were tweaked many times over the course of the original game's many patches. There is no denying that some of the talents were straight up bad. Sometimes this was because of poor game design. Retribution Paladins had Repentance, which was not only arguably the worst crowd control ability in the game, it was placed in a damage dealing tree. It was possible to change your talents, but doing so became gradually more expensive each time you did it, making your choices feel more important and getting you more invested in your character. During Classic, it was also impossible to inspect other people's talents. For the Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, each expansion added 2 additional columns to each tree and made each tree better overall. The talent trees themselves were at their strongest during this era. The cost of changing talents did not increase with these expansions, and the maximum cost was no longer much of an issue. In Cataclysm, they removed multiple columns to each tree, reduced the number of talent points you got while leveling, and removed or combined many of the previous talents. Essentially what they did was they shrunk the trees and shrunk everything about them. A new addition to the Cataclysm's talent tree was it also locked you into your specialization. You could not, for example, put some points into fire and some points into frost. You had to get all the way down to the very bottom of a tree before you were allowed to put any points into the other trees. There was still no increase to the cost of changing talents, and the maximum cost was now a drop in the bucket compared to how much gold most players had. From Mists of Pandaria onward all the way to current Battle for Azeroth, the current system of choosing between 3 abilities was put into place. The individual choices are powerful, but spaced very far apart. Each expansion after Myths made changing your talents easier. Nowadays, it costs nothing to change anything, which means you no longer invest anything and there is no purpose behind any choice. Since we're talking about the fundamentals, let's talk about the fundamentals. At level 10, your character used to suddenly have access to a great big-ass list of things that they could get. The trees had flashy artwork themed towards different character concepts. The talents themselves were themed towards those concepts. You wanted to be that kind of warlock, or that kind of rogue, or that kind of hunter. And you could watch the trees slowly filling up with points as you leveled. And you could watch as you slowly became that kind of character. You used to constantly watch your character get stronger. Every other level, you could go buy new skill ranks or new skills. Every level from 10 onwards, you got another point to put into your talent tree. You could see every step of the way as your character improved little by little. And you were the one putting the points in the tree. You were the one deciding what skills to buy. You had all the control over your character's development. You invested your time, your in-game money, and you became attached to the character. Eventually, your character became powerful enough to learn some of the really awesome skills tied to specialization trees. You knew that your priest could transform into a shadowy version of itself and melt people's faces off. But that priest over there could put up powerful protection spells you didn't have. And that priest over there could heal better than either of you. But you were invested in your character. You felt a little jelly about the protection spells, a little jelly that you had weaker healing, but you knew they were jealous of your face-melting ability. Not only were you now invested in your character the way that you built it, changing the talents was expensive, and only got more expensive the more you changed them. You had another incentive to stick with your decisions too. Back then, gear didn't magically change its stats for you just because you changed your specialization. You not only had to pay to change talents, and back then it was expensive, but you may have also had to get a full set of gear for it too. It was a big deal. That's all gone now. What do you have nowadays? At level 10, you make a decision to start leveling as whatever spec you want. The choice doesn't really matter. You can change it at any time at no cost. Press of a button, poof! Hey, now you're a different spec. The gear will magically change its stats, so you don't even have to worry about that, aside from possibly weapons. You don't buy your skills, you just pull them out of your ass as you go. You don't get a new talent every level. Nah, you only get those every 15 levels or so. And those talents aren't on a cool tree with cool artwork. No, it's just some boring black background, and you don't even get to see what the other specs would be getting either. Hell, the talents themselves barely even count as decisions because you can change those for free practically whenever you want to. How could I possibly feel invested in a character whose development I barely control, and the few decisions I can make, I can change anytime without penalty? Blizzard was absolutely correct that at maximum level, players do tend to follow cookie-cutter patterns in their talent trees. The problem is, they seem to have forgotten the rest of the game that came before that. Leveling your character matters. Having choices matters. Getting people to invest in their character through those choices is absolutely critical. After all, if you're not invested in a character, why would you play it? That's the end of the leveling videos. Next time we're going to start digging into the world category, starting with questing. I thank you for watching the Super Casuals. My name is Auronado. Remember, keep it casual. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more.